Hello and welcome to another product comparison breakdown from Longhorn Tactical. Today's comparison is here courtesy of a comment left on our Longhorn Tactical YouTube channel by the user Kuban Bolotbikov, which I believe is a surname most commonly found in Kyrgyzstan. So a friendly hello and очень приятно to our Kyrgyzstani friends and viewers. Might I suggest you guys try to put some vowels in between all those consonants? That's a lot of consonants.
Hey y'all, take this time to like and subscribe to the Longhorn Tactical YouTube channel. Thanks.
Today, we will be comparing the Fenix HM70R with the Nitecore HC68. Both of them being multifunctional headlamps with a primary light, a floodlight, as well as auxiliary red lights. Let's go over the primary differences between the HM70R and the Nitecore HC68. When it comes to comparing flashlights or headlamps, the thing people will care most about probably is brightness. The HM70R headlamp from Fenix has a max brightness of 1600 lumen, which is about this much, coming from its primary luminous SST40 white LED. The Nitecore HC68 has a max brightness of 2000 lumen. And that is when both of its LEDs are activated. So 2000 to 1600, I suppose it's about 400 points for the Nitecore, so we'll just go by scale factor, so I'll do 2. Additionally, I think 2 is a good score because Nitecore has the ability to activate both the spotlight as well as the floodlight LED, whereas with the HM70R, you can only have one LED active at one time. It's very straightforward, likes to do its thing. Make sure it's done properly. Both the HM70R and HC68 are capable of a 203-yard max beam with its spotlight and a 220-yard beam with its spotlight. So only about a 17-yard differential when it comes to beam distance, which I think is plenty sufficient considering they're both headlamps. I don't think most people's vision extends out to 200 yards with any meaningful levels of clarity. Unless you had eagle jeans. Now, brightness modes. The Fenix HM70R has 4 brightness modes on its primary spotlight. A 30 lumen low, a 150 lumen mid, a 500 lumen high, and the 1600 lumen turbo. The Nitecore HC68 has 5 brightness modes on its spotlight. The 1 lumen ultra low, a 50 lumen low, a 250 lumen mid, a 950 lumen high, and a 1800 lumen turbo. So the turbo slightly outperforms 1800 to 1600. Additionally, the Nitecore has 5 brightness modes over the HM30R's 4. So brighter and 5 to 4. However, I will give a point here to the HM70R because, as I've said prior, I don't think you need that many brightness modes. Usually, it's enough to have the one low mode, the one sort of mid mode that gives you plenty enough lighting to accomplish anything, I think, in a room size environment. And then, of course, the highest mode for long range if you are outdoors. I think that's usually sufficient. So sometimes I think flashlight companies try to adapt to maybe too many different scenarios and situations and provide too many options, which could be rather suffocating. That being said, the other trademark of the Nitecore HC68 is that it is an adjustable headlamp in that it has variable brightness. You can hit the minus and plus signs to go to your 5 designated brightness modes. However, you can also hold either for it to gradually decrease and transition back and forth from spotlight to floodlight, giving you that variable step down to step up. It definitely allows you to focus in and get that really precise desired amount of brightness you would want on your spotlight or floodlight by variably adjusting the brightness on either side. Of course, to what degree the average person might really be fixated on finding that precise brightness mode for a very particular task, I find to be rather superfluous. But who knows? Some people are very particular. So give a point to the Nitecore there. Next, let's take a look at the floodlights. For the Fenix HM70R, the secondary floodlight is a CRI XP-G2 HE neutral LED, a high CRI neutral LED, there we go, which activates on this smaller side over here. And there are 2 brightness levels for this high CRI LED, and you're cycling between your 4 auxiliary modes, your red flashing, red solid, your low high CRI of 70 lumen, and then your high CRI of 400 lumen. And of course, this provides a very pleasant, natural lighting in a nice, even distribution giving you good flood vision. The Nitecore HC68, on the other hand, has 5 floodlight modes, similar to the 5 spotlight modes. First activate it, set it to the floodlight LED, and then you have your 1 lumen ultra low, your 45 lumen low, your 220 lumen mid, your 850 lumen high, and your 1400 lumen turbo. Once again, you have 2 brightness modes for the floodlight, however, high CRI LED, so that gets a point there. Whereas the Nitecore, both the flood and spotlight are both the same luminous SSD40W LEDs. The only difference is that the TIR lens has a different structure adapted in front of each LED, which creates a spotlight or floodlight. That's why the high CRI gives the Fenix HM70R a point. However, the 5 spotlight modes to the 2 spotlight modes gives the Nitecore a point. Although the Nitecore, once again, much like the spotlight, God, this headlamp, spotlight, floodlight, the names are similar, Jesus. This is a minefield. There's no way I can go through this without any mistakes. And now to go over the auxiliary modes. On the Fenix HM70R, by double tapping you activate the red solid. Then high CRIs, which we've already covered, the 2 different high CRI brightnesses, and then red flashing. So you have the red flashing as well as the red solid as your auxiliary modes for the Fenix HM70R. On the Nitecore HC68, similarly, you double tap to activate your auxiliary LEDs. First you have red solid, then a brighter red solid, then you have the red LED flashing, and then beacon, where it pulses once every second, and then finally SOS. I think both get a point for being fairly intuitive. How to activate, double tap, since tapping or holding once activates the main light on both. As well as the Nitecore, let's give it a point for having the beacon and SOS. It also has the brighter red mode, whereas the Fenix just has solid red, flashing red. But once again, I do like that efficiency. Although here you have red, brighter red, red flashing, just red, and red flashing, I do enjoy that efficiency. I feel like on the Nitecore, you could have just had the brighter solid red and the red flashing. And finally, we arrive to the primary difference of the Nitecore HC68 and the Fenix HM70R. As you can tell, they're both fairly similar, right? They have the spotlight, they have the floodlight, they have the red LEDs. They got a lot of different brightness modes. You can accomplish pretty much anything you want with these headlamps for whatever purpose. They're also the 3-strap headlamps, which I prefer over just the single bed headlamps because they provide more security. Here's the primary difference. The Nitecore HC68, well, first off, both of them are USB-C rechargeable. They have USB-C ports. Both of them, actually, on the right side with the headlamp facing away from you, tucked in behind this. As you can see, both of them, if you unscrew the right side with the headlamp facing out away from you, have the USB-C port hidden away on the right side twisty bit of the headlamp. But the primary difference is that the HM70R is a 21700 headlamp and utilizes a 5000 mAh 21700 battery, whereas the Nitecore HC68 is an 18650 headlamp and utilizes a 3500 milliamp 18650 battery, both of them being button top. So you get about a 1500 milliamp difference. Doesn't translate that much to battery power because the 1 lumen ultra low of the Nitecore HC68 has a runtime of 800 hours, whereas the 30 lumen low of the Fenix HM70R has a runtime of 100 hours. It's really not a fair comparison because it's 1 lumen to 30. So even if we do the 50 lumen low of the Nitecore, that's 28 hour runtime and 100 hour runtime of the 30 lumen. So 50-30, also not a fair comparison. Either way, if you have a headlamp that can run in excess of over 24 hours at a low mode of 30 lumen or 50 lumen, that's lighting for over a day. And ideally you should have time to recharge in between there, unless you're like a really professional mountaineer, like you're climbing Everest, you're away from a power source for more than a day. Although then it really comes down to weight distribution. Does the extra capacity of the 21700 and resulting larger frame of the HM70R to the HC68, is that trade-off worth it for you? Judging by the way how both of these are constructed, they're fairly similar in size. It's not like this one, the Fenix HM70R, is noticeably larger. So I guess it gets a point for having more battery capacity. And it does have more battery capacity, and they did a good job of not making it overly big. It's not noticeably bigger, and it's not noticeably heavier or unwieldy when it is being worn or utilized. You can see, Fenix is not that much noticeably bigger or heavier. in particular to the Nitecore HC68, even though it has the 21700 battery. Then, if weight is not an issue, let's go over personal comfort. I personally prefer the Nitecore headband when it comes to comfort. It has a more cloth-like texture. It's still very stretchy, but to describe it, it feels like a t-shirt. It feels like a much more cloth-like. Whereas the Fenix headband, also very stretchy as well, but this one has a more spandexy kind of feel, like a fancy t-shirt. I'm not really good at this. So this one feels, the Nitecore one feels like a cotton t-shirt. The really basic ones, like undergarment shirts that you get for like short sleeves without any logos or anything, that for men, that are just pure cotton and kind of have that sort of soft feel. Whereas this one have that slicker feel, the Fenix. And I prefer this one of the Nitecore because it's softer. And I like soft things. Although it does become noticeable is if you wear it over an extended period of time and you're moving around a lot, or, you know, if you have to film outdoors in the Texas heat, this one soaks up more sweat noticeably because, like I said, it is that denser sort of cottonier feel. Both of them do have the silicone strip built in, which helps grip your noggin and help divert sweat away, which I think is, I don't know, it's not like there's like parts of your body that you prefer to have sweat on. I like to imagine sweat is more of a binary thing. You either want to be sweaty or not want to be sweaty. It's not like, oh, I wish I only sweated on my leg. You know what I mean? It's not like I want to really divert my sweat away from anywhere, so I don't know, it's just marketing gibberish. I did the product review videos for each of these headlamps as their own separate unit. However, when I got both of them out for this video specifically, one thing I did notice is that the Nitecore headlamp, with its nice firm sort of silicone triangular trapezoidal backplate, is actually quite nice. It's one of those things where you didn't really notice it until it was there. And it was only up in comparison of the Fenix one. It doesn't have it, it just has this plastic clip, which is the part that holds the vertical band to the horizontal band. It does feel much nicer. It rests up against the back of your head, providing a lot more structural support, and because it's slightly denser than just this piece of plastic clip, it acts as a rudimentary counterweight, although both of these are still very front heavy. So, I guess comfort for the backplate goes to the Nitecore. Less sweat absorbiness goes to the Fenix. They both have the silicone bands. Both have, yeah. The Nitecore one, like I said, is solid, very cottony feel, whereas the Fenix one is perforated. You can see the small holes that make it more breathable. And I never noticed it, but they put in the effort to punch in all those holes, so I guess I'll give them a point for that. Or a couple. Finally, some minor attributes for both of these headlamps. Both the HC68 as well as the HM70R are rated IP68 waterproof, which means you can drop them into a puddle and they should work fine. And I guess it's rather auspicious that it's IP68 rated, and this one's the HC68. So, although 70 is 2 greater than 68. No, I spent way too much time on names last time. We'll still give it a point there. Both of these are impact resistant up to 2 meters, although I'm not a doctor, but I should say that you shouldn't impact your head to anything. It's usually not a good idea. The implication is that since these are headlamps, you would be wearing them and you're impacting them. Yes, you shouldn't be banging your head on things. In conclusion, the Fenix HM70R is slightly bigger, weighs more. The headband isn't that much more comfortable. So for extended wearing, I suppose the Nitecore really takes the cake there. It has a softer headband. It has a reinforced backplate. It is lighter, but for similar amounts of lighting. So if you envision yourself or require a headlamp that you have to wear for extended periods of time, then I suppose the answer would be the Nitecore. On the other hand, if you're not bothered by such trifles because you're tough, on the other hand, if you prefer simplicity of activation and less modes, but still plenty of modes to accomplish what you need, spotlight, floodlight, high CRI, as well as the red LEDs, less modes so it's less confusing, and want the extra battery life of the 21700 over the 18650, then the Fenix HM70R is the way to go on that one. And that concludes the product comparison breakdown of the Fenix HM70R versus the Nitecore HC68 multifunctional spotlight, floodlight, auxiliary red light headlamps from Fenix and Nitecore respectively. If you have enjoyed this video or think I'm a big dumb fart, please leave a comment or suggestion below. To stay up to date on future product releases, sales announcements, and all things flashlight related, please consider subscribing to the Longhorn Tactical YouTube channel. And thank you.